The following is my own opinion, and not the opinion of any studios I've worked for in the past or will work for in the future. All specific information comes courtesy of publicly accessible articles. Please see the bibliography in the info section of this video. This episode contains minor spoilers. There's a story I've been working on since the year 2013. I started writing it during a terrible time in my life, and continued working on it as things continued to get worse. The process was an escape for me, a deeply personal tale of a family struggling to survive on a dying planet. The working title was one of the first phrases I ever spoke as a toddler, or so I've been told. Over the years, the story only grew more expansive. I had built an entire sandbox to play in. I outlined 2 sequels and adapted a part of the first film into a script for a proof-of-concept short film. My goal was to make the short film so I would have some compelling visuals to show off when pitching the features. That never happened. I tried to pitch the short to an animation studio who will go unnamed. They were interested, but not interested enough to move beyond pitch meetings. I learned a lot from the experience. I wanted to assemble a team to get it made on my own, but I'm terrible at asking for help and had nothing really to offer as an incentive for anyone who would have even wanted to help out. So I sat on the whole thing, improving the story, the characters, the world, bit by bit. Jump cut to February 2019, the news of a new Chinese blockbuster called The Wandering Earth was shattering local box office records at the time. I looked into it, fascinated. Here's a portion of the synopsis. The Wandering Earth tells the story of a distant future in which the sun is about to expand into a red giant and devour the Earth, prompting mankind to make an audacious attempt to save the planet. The multi-generational heroes build 10,000 stellar engines in an effort to propel planet Earth out of the solar system in the hopes of finding a new celestial home. Reading this for the first time felt like being punched in the gut. The more I read about the movie, the more similar it sounded to my long-running project. Reading the synopsis for The Wandering Earth was the same as reading a synopsis of the story I'd been working on for years. I was devastated. Now, to be clear, I don't think my idea had been stolen. I'd been pretty secretive about the story and really don't think it somehow made its way to China. The studio that I had pitched to had no Chinese ties, so I'm really doubtful that anything mean-spirited happened in relation to that experience. It was just one big disappointing coincidence. After some tea, a long walk, and many discussions with my wife about it, I did begin to slowly feel a bit better, but man, did I go through a series of strong emotions. The Wandering Earth is old news by the time this video is coming out, but the shockwave it left in my life is ongoing. I learned 4 big lessons from this experience, and I think they're pretty valuable, so I'm gonna go through them point by point, and then, just for fun, I'll prove that my situation isn't completely unique. Lesson 1. Don't hinge stories around settings. Build them around characters and relatable emotional journeys. This one is just a fundamental of writing, and it's absolutely saving my script as I retool it. I have a lot of work to do in order to avoid comparisons to The Wandering Earth, but the story isn't about the planetary attempt at avoiding global destruction by building giant thrusters. That's the setting in which my characters find themselves. My story is about the members of the family, how they deal with a threat, their relationship to each other, and how those relationships are tested. Not only is this relatable to the audience, thus grounding whatever situation surrounds them no matter how ridiculous, but it also allows me to alter the details of the situation without crippling the heart of my story. I know so many people writing novels or movies that are super high concept with 0 interesting characters. That's an easy mistake to make. You can get so excited about the world in which your story takes place that you start mistaking that world for the story. Write your characters first. You have to make the audience care. Then place those fully developed characters into a sandbox of your own making and see what happens. Lesson 2. Take delight in the success of others. Don't become bitter, jaded, and jealous. Bitter people make weak movies. Jealous people make imitation movies. What The Wandering Earth showed me is that my ideas are good, and those ideas have the potential to be extremely profitable. If I ever manage to get investors and make my own films, I feel confident that my concepts are interesting enough to draw a crowd. Lesson 3. Ask for help. I need to get over my mixture of pride and fear and just ask for help. If people don't want to help a person with no money make a short for no money, then they should be allowed to make that choice. I shouldn't be making that choice for them preemptively. If they believe enough in my ideas and they want to help make them better, I should give them that opportunity. I hate asking people for things. I don't even like receiving gifts from people I love. I hate the idea that someone might think I was taking advantage of their skills and not giving them what they're worth in return. These are realities I need to just buckle up and get over. If I have money to pay people, then I have money to pay people. If I don't, then I don't. That has to be good enough for me, and I can't do this alone anymore. Lesson 4. Don't get precious. Write a screenplay until it's finished, but don't drag your feet. If you have a good idea, it doesn't exist in isolation. Several other people on the planet have had the same idea you've just had. It's a race to the finish line once you commit to a project. If it's taking you far too long to finish something, it might not be because it needs more work, necessarily. For me, I was using the process of writing to escape the issues I was struggling with at the time. My goal wasn't primarily to make it into something until I started pitching it. I'll never make that mistake again. And now, for your viewing pleasure, a parade of shockingly similar movies released in a shockingly similar time frame. Armageddon vs. Deep Impact, Babe vs. Gordy, The Prestige vs. The Illusionist, Chasing Liberty vs. First Daughter, Volcano vs. Dante's Peak, Ants vs. A Bug's Life, Turner and Hooch vs. K9, Olympus Has Fallen vs. White House Down, Friends with Benefit vs. No Strings Attached, Shark Tale vs. Finding Nemo, Mirror Mirror vs. Snow White and the Huntsman, Red Planet vs. Mission to Mars, Top Gun vs. Iron Eagle, Capote vs. Infamous, Stealing Harvard vs. Orange County, Powder vs. Phenomenon, Tombstone vs. Wyatt Earp, The Wild vs. Madagascar, Striptease vs. Showgirls, The Truman Show vs. Ed TV, The Cave vs. The Descent, Cop Out vs. The Other Guys, After Earth vs. Oblivion, Marguerite vs. Florence Foster Jenkins, Gone in 60 Seconds vs. The Fast and the Furious, Fire vs. Fire Fraud, Freddy vs. Jason vs. Alien vs. Predator, Batman vs. Superman vs. Captain America Civil War, The Emperor's New Groove vs. The Road to El Dorado, The Thomas Crown Affair vs. Entrapment, Megamind vs. Despicable Me, Bicentennial Man vs. AI Artificial Intelligence, Observe and Report vs. Paul Blart Mall Cop, Scary Movie vs. Shriek If You Know What I Did Last Friday the 13th. Your ideas do not exist in a vacuum. Therefore, it's up to you to get them in front of us, the audience, as soon as you can, while telling the best possible story you can. This has been Cinema Cemetery, digging 6 feet deeper into film and culture.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. If you liked what you saw, give us a like. If you didn't, don't.